"Old man, leave my stall. I don't know you." She couldn't see his face through her anger. He couldn't speak through his tears. The crowd laughed. She screamed. He walked away. 3 days later, she lost everything. 3 months later, she inherited $1 billion fortune. The man she chased away wasn't a beggar. He was a billionaire. And he was her father. What happened next changed everything. Her name was Grace. 38 years old. Market trader. Sharp tongue. Harder heart. She sold tomatoes under a rusted zinc roof and trusted no one, because life had taught her that men leave, money disappears, and the only thing you own is your dignity. But on that Saturday morning in the crowded market, when she shouted at a trembling old man in torn clothes and dusty sandals, she had no idea she was staring into the eyes of the one person who never stopped thinking about her. The one person who built an empire just hoping that one day, he could hear her call him father. And now he's gone. And she has to live with what she said. This is not just a story. This is a mirror. And by the end, you'll question everything you thought you knew about pride, forgiveness, and the invisible threads that tie our fates together. So who was this woman who screamed at a billionaire and didn't know it? Grace didn't always carry anger like armor. There was a time when she was just a barefoot girl with big dreams, running through dusty village paths with her mother, Mama Rose, a firewood seller who barely kept food on the table. Grace never knew her father. All she knew were whispers. The neighbors said he abandoned them. Ran off to the city chasing money and never looked back. And Mama Rose? She never spoke his name. She would just cough into her wrapper and say, "Men leave, money leaves, the only thing you truly own is your dignity." So Grace grew up believing that. When Mama Rose died from an illness they couldn't afford to treat, Grace was 17. She moved to the city. Started selling in the market. Built a life from dust and stubbornness. She never married. Never let anyone close. Because love, to her, was just another word for abandonment. Her life became a routine. Wake before dawn. Arrange her goods. Shout down prices. Count coins at night. Sleep on a thin mat in a cracked room. It wasn't much. But it was hers. And no one, not even a beggar in torn clothes, was going to take what little she had left. And who was the old man? A ghost from the past. A shadow with no name. Or so it seemed. Because while Grace saw rags and dust, the truth was far more complicated. That man had boardrooms that answered to him. Helicopters that carried his name. Mansions with fountains and marble floors. But none of it mattered, because the one thing he wanted most in the world was standing right in front of him, telling him to leave. So why did he come? What was he hoping to say before she shamed him in front of the crowd? And how does a billionaire end up looking like he has nothing? Hold on, because the answers will break you. Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from, we'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. His name was Daniel. Chief Daniel now, though he hadn't always carried that title. 40 years ago, he was just another hungry village boy with calloused hands and dreams bigger than his circumstances. He married young, to a beautiful woman named Rose, and when she told him she was pregnant, he made a promise. He would go to the city, find work, make money, and come back for them. But the city swallowed him whole. He found work in a welding shop, then saved enough to start buying and selling scrap metal. One deal led to another. Scrap metal became spare parts. Spare parts became real estate. Real estate became oil contracts. And before he knew it, Daniel was no longer the man who left. He was someone else entirely. Someone powerful. Someone feared. Someone alone. He told himself he would go back. He told himself 1,000 times. But shame is a heavy chain. How do you return to the woman you left behind when you've become the very thing she warned you against? How do you face the child you abandoned when you can't even forgive yourself? So the years passed. Rose died without ever knowing he had become wealthy. And Daniel, now Chief Daniel, sat in boardrooms surrounded by people who smiled at his money but never knew his name. He had everything. Except the one thing that mattered. It started with a private investigator. Chief Daniel had hired him 6 months earlier with one instruction. Find my daughter. It took time, but eventually the investigator came back with a file. Grace, 38 years old, unmarried, market trader, living in a rented room in the industrial part of the city. No children. No close friends. Survived on less than most people spent on lunch. Chief Daniel stared at her photograph for hours. She had Rose's eyes. His nose. The investigator asked if he wanted him to arrange a meeting. But Chief Daniel shook his head. He couldn't just walk into her life and say, "Hello, I'm your father, I'm rich now, let me fix everything." It doesn't work that way. So instead, he decided to go see her. Not as a chief. Not as a billionaire. Just as a man. He dressed in old clothes he found in his driver's quarters. He took off his watch, his rings, everything. And one Saturday morning, he went to the market. It was louder than he remembered. Hotter. Dustier. He walked slowly through the rows of stalls until he saw her. Grace. Arranging tomatoes. Wiping sweat from her forehead. Shouting at a customer over 5 naira. His heart nearly stopped. He wanted to say something. Anything. But his throat closed up. So he just stood there, watching. Then she noticed him. Her eyes narrowed. "Old man, you want to buy or you're just blocking my customers?" He swallowed hard and stepped closer. "I just wanted to see you." "See me? Do I know you?" "No. But I know you." She laughed bitterly. "Another madman. Please, go and beg somewhere else. I don't have anything for you." He tried again, his voice shaking. "My daughter." "What?" She stood up, anger flashing in her eyes. "Don't call me that. Don't you dare. I don't know you. I don't owe you anything. Now leave before I call someone to deal with you." A small crowd had started to gather. People were laughing. Someone said, "These beggars are getting bold these days." Chief Daniel felt his chest tighten. He looked at her one last time, tears blurring his vision, and then he turned and walked away. Grace watched him go, shaking her head. Another crazy old man trying to scam people. She didn't think about him again. Not that day. Not that week. But he thought about her every second. If your heart is pounding right now, comment. I'm still watching. Let's see who has the strength to finish this. 3 days after that encounter, everything changed. Grace arrived at the market to find her stall surrounded by workers. The landlord, a fat man with a permanent scowl, was shouting orders. "What's going on?" Grace pushed through the crowd. The landlord turned to her with a smirk. "Your rent is overdue. We're clearing this space." "But I paid you last month." "That was last month. This is this month. You're 2 weeks late. I told you I'd pay by Friday. It's Wednesday." "Well, Friday is too late." Her goods were already being thrown into the gutter. Tomatoes split open on the concrete. Peppers scattered. Onions rolling into the dirt. Grace screamed. She begged. She tried to fight back. But no one helped. By noon, her stall was gone. She sat on the cold cement floor, staring at the mess, feeling something inside her crack. That night, she didn't eat. She just sat in her room and cried until there were no tears left. Meanwhile, across the city, Chief Daniel sat in his study staring at a screen showing live footage of the market. He had people watching her. Not to control her. Just to know she was safe. When he saw what happened, he made a call. By morning, everything had changed. Grace arrived at the market to find her stall rebuilt. New zinc roof. Fresh wood. Clean paint. And sitting on the counter was an envelope. Inside was cash, more than she made in 3 months, and a gold-embossed business card with no name. Just an address. She stood there, shaking, unable to understand. Who did this? Why? People were whispering. Someone said a rich man paid the landlord. Someone else said it was charity from the government. Grace didn't believe any of it. She thought it was a trap. But she took the money. She restocked her goods. And late at night, alone in her room, she held that card and wondered if maybe, just maybe, life could be different. 2 months later, everything fell apart again. But this time, it wasn't the market. It was a phone call. Grace was closing her stall when a man in a black suit approached her. Are you Grace? Who's asking? I'm a lawyer. You need to come with me. For what? I haven't done anything. It's not about that. It's about your father. Grace froze. Her father? The man who abandoned her before she could even remember his face. She almost laughed. My father is dead. The lawyer's expression didn't change. No, ma'am. He's not. Or at least, he wasn't. Not until 3 days ago. The words hit her like a punch. She followed him in silence to a tall building in the city center, up an elevator that moved too fast, into a conference room with leather chairs and a long table. There were other people there. Lawyers. Assistants. A woman with glasses who handed her a folder. And then Grace saw it. A photograph on the wall. An oil painting, large and framed in gold. The face staring back at her was older, cleaner, wealthier. But the eyes were the same. The nose. The shape of the jaw. It was him. The beggar from the market. No. Not a beggar. Her father. Grace's hand started shaking. The lawyer began to speak, but his voice sounded far away. Your father, Chief Daniel, passed away 4 days ago from a heart condition. He left specific instructions in his will. You are his only child and sole heir to his estate. The folder in her hands felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Inside were documents. Bank statements. Property deeds. Titles to companies. And a letter. Written in shaky handwriting. My daughter, I failed you. Every success I ever had became a weight of shame, because I never earned the right to hear you call me father. I came to see you that day, not to ask for forgiveness, because I know I don't deserve it, but just to hear your voice. Just to see the woman you became. I am proud of you. I always was. My wealth is yours now. But what I wished for most was just one embrace. Forgive me, if you can. If you can't, I understand. Your father, Daniel. Grace's vision blurred. She couldn't breathe. The room spun. And before anyone could stop her, she ran. The funeral was held a week later. Grace stood at the front of a crowd she didn't recognize, in a mansion she had never seen, wearing black clothes someone else had bought for her. Hundreds of people came. Business partners. Politicians. Society people. None of them knew him. Not really. The pastor spoke about generosity and vision, but Grace barely heard him. She kept thinking about that day in the market. The way he stood there. The way he looked at her. The way he left without fighting back. She thought about all the years she spent angry at a ghost, hating a man she never knew, building walls around her heart to keep everyone out. And now he was gone. And the walls didn't protect her from anything. After the service, she walked alone through the mansion. 32 rooms. Marble floors. Paintings worth more than entire neighborhoods. And it all felt empty. But then she found his study. A small room at the back, filled with books and papers. And on the desk, there was a photo. It was old, faded, cracked at the edges. A young man and a young woman, smiling. Her mother. Her father. Before everything fell apart. Grace picked it up and held it to her chest. And for the first time in her life, she let herself cry. Not out of anger. Not out of bitterness. But out of grief. For the father she never got to know. For the life that could have been. For all the words left unsaid. 6 months later, Grace made a decision. She couldn't bring him back. Couldn't undo the past. But she could do something with what he left behind. She turned the mansion into a community foundation. A place where single mothers could learn skills. Where children could get scholarships. Where widows could find support. She called it the Rose and Daniel Foundation. After both her parents. And every time someone asked her why she did it, she gave the same answer. Because silence is not the same as absence. And forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's about choosing not to carry the weight anymore. So let me ask you this. If you were Grace, standing in that market, shouting at a stranger you didn't recognize, would you have done anything different? And if you found out the truth, would you forgive? Or would the anger be too deep? How do you forgive someone who wasn't there when you needed them most, even if they spent the rest of their life trying to make up for it? Think about the people in your own life. The ones you've written off. The ones you've decided aren't worth your time. What if their story is bigger than you know? What if your anger is keeping you from something you didn't even realize you needed? Grace spent 38 years hating a man she never met. And in the end, she realized that hate didn't protect her. It just made her alone. This story isn't just about a father and daughter. It's about all of us. About the walls we build. The grudges we hold. The second chances we refuse to give. So I'll leave you with this. If destiny brought someone back into your life today, someone you thought was gone forever, would you open the door? Or would you slam it shut? And if you think this story hit deep, wait until you hear about the son who rejected his mother at her lowest, only to become the very man she prayed he'd never be. But that's a story for next time. Subscribe, so you never miss it. Because these aren't just stories. They're reminders. That life isn't just lived. It's felt. It's learned. And sometimes, it's forgiven. Thank you for staying with me. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and tell me, would you have forgiven Chief Daniel? I really want to know.